Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, it's Vegas week, baby.
Damn right.
Brian is at Vegas as we speak. He will be bouncing back and forth, but I will be joining him this weekend. We will be at the track both Saturday and Sunday. Very excited about that. But before we spin the clock forward and look at all of the exciting stuff for the Pennzoil 400, we need to roll it back, talk some Phoenix, talk about Chris Bell making it 3 race wins in a row, talk about the bets, the Drafkings, all the thoughts. Brian, as somebody with boots on the ground in Phoenix, thoughts, feelings, emotions, general takeaways before we dive into the bets and the Drafkings and all that stuff?
Well, I think it's clear who the championship favorite is at this point in the season, and
Joey Logano.
like Christopher Bell driving through the field once again at Phoenix. I asked Adam Stevens after the race, like, what is it about this track that makes this team so good? And he kind of alluded to Christopher Bell's ability to overcome whatever little tiny things they missed in practice, and just there's something about Phoenix that just fits his driving style, regardless of the tire, the prime, the option tire, whatever it may be. This team is just better than everybody else here right now, and it showed on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal point. It also seemed like the tires made it fun, but it didn't overwhelm or like completely change the race, which I think seems like a good result for NASCAR.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that we kind of dodged a bullet here, but if you go back and you watch the end of that race, had Ty Dillon not sustained a pit road penalty, we may be talking about Ty Dillon as the Shriners Children's 500 winner, because he was the only guy in the field that kept both sets of red tires for that, like for the first late caution. When guys put their last sets on, he was putting his first set on. Yeah. And I mean, what would have been the reaction from fans and even NASCAR had the 10 car found victory lane in a race that was dominated by the front runners the way that it should be? Yeah, and yet we still come away with some rando driver simply because of the fact that we had the option tire. And I think that's the reason why Christopher Bell in his post-race press conference, not only did he sound non-committal about wanting the actual option tire as the tire for the championship race because he's better than everybody else on the prime right now, but him and everybody else in the garage, they wholeheartedly agree. They do not want option tires at races because it removes the ability of the best car to win and just creates more variance than what we see at super speedways, kind of.
Yeah, I honestly don't. I'm not sure Ty Dillon wins. He probably has a strong finish, but maybe.
I don't know. If he's the only guy on red tires with about 20 laps to go.
Yeah.
You saw.
I'd like to see what happened. It would be interesting to see, some of the people that run the models and stuff to like model it out if he was in his position before the penalty.
I don't think there is a question that Ty Dillon comes home inside the top 3, at worst top 5, if we go green with about 18 to 20 to go and he's the only guy on reds. Yeah. Ryan Preece, Austin Cindric, Joey Logano, Michael McDowell, Daniel Suarez, everybody that got off cycle with reds, they made up 15, 20 positions in the matter of about 15 to 18 laps. Like,
that's completely fair.
Yeah, and that's the reason why this whole situation of us having multiple tire compounds with stage breaks, as Christopher Bell pointed out again during his post-race press conference, makes zero sense in the grand scheme of things, because unlike in F1 where they don't have designated caution points, you're actually using the option tire as a strategy for the entire race, not just a small segment.
Or you're getting on it during your pit cycle, but
exactly.
The race is still going on, and there's there's a little bit of a risk reward there. Like, okay, we can go in and get it, we'll be faster, but we have to wait the time to actually do that. So I think that's interesting. I also wonder, maybe they just what if they just went to the option tire like as the only tire for Phoenix? I think that would be fun.
So that's
Um,
actually the plan.
okay,
That's the reason why. So yesterday on Monday they did like I'm sure plenty of people saw this on Twitter. Bob Pockers was tweeting about it, but they had like a 12+ hour tire test for not just the option tire that they ran this past Sunday, but they were also testing other soft tire compounds to see which one they're actually going to choose to run in the championship race. So all things are pointing to us using a softer tire come the fall to hopefully promote passing and actually have tire preservation become a real thing at
yeah.
this event. So we'll see.
Yeah, I wonder. I do wonder what Bell thinks about that. He's probably like not as happy because he
Well,
wasn't
you could
quite as
tell
good on
like
the option tire.
he clearly enjoys the current tire that they're on. He's so much better than everybody else on that current tire setup here at Phoenix. Now, I will say, of course, we're a homer show. From my vantage point early on in the race, there was only one guy that could keep pace with Christopher Bell on the primes, and that was Tyler Reddick.
Yeah,
Now he was about a half to a full tenth off,
yeah.
but he was the only one that was even in the remote vicinity of lap times late in runs, from what I
Which
was
is
seeing.
really good to see. Considering like we went to Phoenix last year, even with
Yep.
our big numbers, thinking he's probably not going to win. Like I'd like to see him win, but he's probably not going to win. But if he can figure out Phoenix a little bit more and like
The only
elevate him,
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me about that, and we've seen this in the past, especially at these West Coast tracks where we have such long gaps in between the races and dramatic differences in weather during
yeah,
the races. The spring races don't always translate to what we see in the fall. And
fair.
Tyler Reddick, for what it's worth, he is one of the maybe best 3 to 4 guys in Phoenix in the spring.
Yeah,
And then during the fall, being that most of the time he's not running for a championship, and last year, like whether it's the fact that they're a smaller team and they're going up against the big dogs of JGR and HMS, but they seem to still be playing catch up in the fall in the championship race to the who's who teams of the sport.
well, and I think that's a good point. Like even like with Vegas, some of the other tracks that we do, like a spring and then a fall race, the
Yep.
weather is so dramatically different that the track runs different, the tires wear different, everything. There's a lot of changes, even if it's at the same location with the same banking and everything.
Well,
So,
and then something else that doesn't this doesn't make any sense to me that we run Phoenix as the traditionally, I believe it's like the 4th or 5th race of the year.
mhm,
And as of right now, it's the last race of the year. It's the longest gap in between a track that has 2 separate dates on it. And it's hard to take data from one race that comes in March and translated into November when you've had an entire summer's worth of sun baking on the concrete. And then for championship weekend, you got 2 other races that occur before the cup race, not to mention however many other races that are held here at Phoenix Raceway during the summertime
yeah.
to, change the track a little bit and all that stuff. So it's just odd to me that we run them so far apart. Whereas like Kansas, there's like 2 months
Yeah.
in between the races.
It's because Phoenix has the best weather, so it's easiest to give it an early
Yeah,
one and a late one and know you're gonna probably get really nice weather for the most part.
I mean, I will say November is still hot as hell out here in the
Exactly.
desert. So I mean, like
Exactly.
moving the championship back down to Miami, or I mean, you could probably even go to like Charlotte for the championship race because if you get it early enough in November, sometimes there's still some warmer periods where it's like in the 50s, which to me is more comfortable than racing in 90-degree weather from a fan perspective.
Yeah. You could get storms, you could get hurricanes, you could get
Not
cold
in no, you're
weather.
not getting a hurricane in November.
I don't know, man. I'm not fucking the weatherman. Let's talk DraftKings, let's talk FanDuel, let's talk the race. Not a great week in terms of tournaments. Of course, Ryan Blaney, the king of consistency at Phoenix, the top 5 king, the top 10 contender every single time, um, has issues and doesn't
Yeah, he
even
blew
finish
up.
the race.
I mean, he was good, and there were points of the day where, just by watching his lap times, he was gonna be bringing it home inside the top 5 again, just based
Alright.
on his
Yeah.
lap averages and all that stuff, and then he started to report that he felt like the engine was going, and sure enough, it blew up on him and, yeah, ruined what was going to be another really good performance by the 12 team here in Phoenix.
Yep, yep. Wrote him up, bet him, had a lot of investment that way, and of course, it
Yeah.
ends up poorly. It was interesting. There was a lot between him and Reddick and some of the other guys. There's a lot of like, this is issue. This is an issue. I'm
Yeah.
feeling it, and it's not just like the AJ Allmendinger bitching on the mic. It's like actual drivers who are mad that something
Yeah.
new is happening. AJ's
Yeah.
always mad.
No.
Logano was great. Even though he didn't only finish 13th, he still led a bunch of laps, was really fast. The put him got off schedule quickly and was really good. Chris Busher, our guy Chris Busher, gets in the top 5.
I don't know how the hell he continues to just
He's just got it.
he
He's
just
just got it.
manufactures fantastic finishes.
And then just like the barrage of trash with Ty Gibbs, Cole Custer, Riley Herbst.
Riley
Um,
Herbst has had, like, one of the most unlucky wrecks I've seen in quite some time. It looked like he had cleared whatever chaos was happening behind him, and then he gets just nicked on the right
yeah,
rear quarter panel just enough to ruin his day there.
pretty crazy. The amounts of carnage at Phoenix when we really don't
Oh,
expect
man,
that.
yeah, the Phoenix big one was pretty wild.
Yeah. Larson, good. Byron, good. Chastain, good. Stupid leg. I am so mad at Catherine Legg for just spinning out for no reason. And then Daniel Suarez, who's in the top 5 most of the
Okay,
day,
so
just slams into her and his day's over.
okay, first of all, I gotta say, I agree with a lot of the takes that we're seeing on social media. I don't think this is a Catherine Legg problem. I think this was a NASCAR, like, path problem. I mean, this being her first race in the Cup Series, she had very limited sim time. I mean, she's running 2 seconds off. I
Yeah.
I just don't see why they're allowing people to get into these seats. I mean, short track is safer. I guess that's what they're saying. But if you're running 2 seconds off pace, these guys should not be in the race. Like,
Yeah.
I think of with proper preparation, I think Catherine Legg, she's probably still running in the back, but she's going to be fine. She's a tremendous race car driver.
She was doing good. She was fine, but like we knew going in that she was going to be a couple seconds off. And like that just doesn't make sense. It just
Well,
doesn't
that's what
make
I'm
sense.
saying. Like, they should give them more training for this. I who knows? It was probably a PR stunt by NASCAR. I mean, Catherine was not even aware about the fact that this past weekend was like International Women's Day.
Yeah.
And she even admitted as so during a press conference when she said she thought she was going to fly under the radar this weekend, which was kind of shocking to hear her say that. But yeah, and then
Yeah.
to Daniel Suarez, I know he was running really well, but just like Joey Logano, because he had gotten off cycle of the Reds, I don't know if he was going to finish inside the top 10 or as high as he was running because he was always going to be at a deficit in the Reds going to the end of the race, especially with how that thing played out. We had those
Yeah.
kind of cautions pretty close together there to end the race.
But as somebody who had a lot of him on DraftKings and had a
Oh yeah,
nice
100%.
10 to 1 bet just to finish in the top 10, I would have liked to have seen it get a chance.
Oh yeah, like
Right.
I think that was definitely still live for sure.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a top 5 finish, but like ninth felt very real, even if he was, a little bit off cycle and on the reds before everyone
Yeah.
else. Because once he gained traction, got got in a good part of the pile, he seemed like he was in a good spot. Like he was cruising around, he was doing well.
Well, that's kind of the
Um,
same thing about Joey. Like
yeah,
once he was able to extend that run on the freaking softs, which okay, first of all, I don't think those tires degraded as much as what they had hoped, because there's no
No,
way he should have been able to run as long as he did and only fall a
that's
couple of
probably
spots from
why
the
they're
lead.
testing more
Yeah.
softer compounds because they want some tire degradation
Yep.
and more of a fall off. So if you stay on them, they
Yeah.
impact you.
But then also too, like, just Joey's ability to maintain track position once he regains
Yeah.
it is still probably the best in the sport. I don't
This
see
is the guy
many
that
other people.
ran an extra like 30 laps when he literally had no gas in his tank. Like, every
Exactly.
other car would have stopped, but Joey's like, "Nah, I got it.
Yeah.
We'll run on air." We'll hope.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, they probably have, like, little mice in there or something actually running on the wheel to keep the car going. Because yeah, there was no way he should be doing that. And then I think similar conversation with Bubba Wallace as Daniel Suarez, like, he was running 12th to 15th, kind of at a high mark most of the day, but he was coming late on the primes, which you kind of saw the Toyotas
Yeah.
all have similar long run speed on the regular tire. So I think like a top 10 was definitely in play there. And then of course he had a brake rotor blowout, and then Ty Gibbs had a brake rotor blowout, which Ty Gibbs is a whole nother conversation for another day. I don't think you could have started the season any worse
Yep.
from the 54's perspective.
Chase Elliott was kind of underwhelming. Like, he
Yeah.
obviously had a top 10 day, but like he never showed the speed that we thought we saw in practice.
Maybe we
Um,
prematurely debunked the AACE
yeah,
moniker.
average ass Chase Elliott's back in our lives, and as we go to Vegas, we'll see if he can lose that moniker, as they say. But yeah, I bet him on the outright card. I thought I had some opportunities there, and
Yeah.
no dice.
And then
Go ahead.
I did want to add on Kyle Larson. He was not a third place car.
Was he a first place car or a 31st place car? What are you trying
No,
to say?
Larson was probably like a 5th to 8th guy. He was not in actual race winning contention, in my opinion. Just they didn't have the long run speed on the prime tires, and then when they put the softs on, I think other people were better than him. Definitely missed the mark there with him. Clearly, maybe they did baby the tires during practice, but I also don't think they had the top overall speed in it either.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Win the Race. Built some cash teams this week to help balance out my tournament entries, and was able to profit. So it was a good week, even having Ryan Blaney in my lineup rather. So obviously having Bell was important, starting 11th. He was like, if you picked Bell over Blaney, look, Bell had one spot difference. He was a little bit more expensive, but he had half the ownership in this cash streets. And obviously it was incredible. Chastain was solid. Suarez was fine until he got legged. Gregson and John Hunter. John Hunter almost got a
John Hunter Nemechek, man.
14th after starting 36th. So
John Hunter Nemechek, the sporter of
the sporty.
Backstreet is back, baby, this week in Vegas.
Okay. So yeah, so I recommend, if you're playing a lot of tournaments and you want to keep that bankroll going, to dive into the cash streets and build a few teams to at least give yourselves a little buoy when you're shooting for the moon and your rocket blows up. Let's look at the bet tracker. Stage 1 winner William Byron was really, really nice. I wish I put a little more on that, but that's okay. 7-1. I'll take that win. Chris Buescher, top 5. I wrote it up in the newsletter over here. So yeah, so we write up all of our bets, our picks, all that stuff. I wrote up Buescher as a top 5 play. I liked him I thought he was interesting for top 4. And I thought he was interesting for to win the race, and I don't know that he was ever going to win it, but he was definitely in contention for top 4. Obviously Josh Berry took that mantle on Friday, or on Saturday or Sunday. But grabbing Buescher top 5 was the move, and 6-1 over on Fanduel was a great bet. So I cashed that. Obviously Hamlin over Kyle Busch. That was nice, grabbing a little bit of a discount there. It was -110 versus -120 for Busch. So A lot of my stuff I'm happy with. I grabbed the 7 when Caesars posted that. I would bet that again with Blaney. If his car doesn't blow up, maybe he has a chance to win. 25 with Ross, I think was fine. I don't know if he was ever really there. McDriver was not really, but that was, I mean, I don't know. It's a number play. 200 to 1, 10 to 1 to top 10. You just
I
kind of
think
grab it.
McDriver, the fact that he had to go to the rear
Mm,
after having to change a steering rack,
yeah,
post
that
practice and
was an
qualifying,
idea.
surprisingly, that kind of killed whatever CLV we had grabbed early in the week after he qualified inside the top 10.
Yeah,
And then even still, had he not had his blow up where, this car just keeps falling apart on him, the opening to open 2025. But even had that not happened, I think just their ability to do similar to what Logano does and make up track position by getting a little bit off cycle would have kept the top 10 as still live, but
yeah.
definitely not winning.
Yeah, I feel like if we run that race like 100 times, I cash at least one of the McDowell or Suarez top 10s most
Oh,
of the time.
yeah. No, it's 100. Yeah, you could do that 10 times, and I think they're probably
Um,
cashing multiple times just based
yeah,
on how aggressive those teams get.
well, and then obviously Inspired, just Hosevard also did his thing, and a lot of red on there, Brian. Frustrating week for you. I think you were on some good stuff. I think you like. I think what can we talk about Alex Bowman like being asked like 80% of the day and ending up in the top 10?
He was a non-factor pretty much the entire race.
I don't get it.
Again, that just goes to why having the option tire was not fun because you
Yeah.
had so many moving parts late in the race and just there had this race gone green the entire time with no stage breaks, which I understand that's a pipe dream of multiple years past. Bowman is probably 15th, 14th, and Wallace is maybe 10th,
Yeah.
ninth. Like he was ahead of Bowman pretty much the majority of the day. So,
Yeah, I
I
think
still feel great about that bet. I would make it every time we came back here,
yeah,
especially post practice and qualifying.
yeah,
Sometimes you're going to lose bets that you were on the right side of, and sometimes you're going to get lucky and hit ones that you had no business cashing.
yep. Right side, wrong result. Wrong side, right result. Uh, that being said, I'm still in the green. Obviously, a rough week took you down into the red, but it's a
Mm,
long season.
couple
We'll
units, it's all
we'll
right.
we'll ping pong back and forth a little bit and see if we can't keep profiting. I also wanted to show over
Hey,
here.
if we kept track of my live ads, I would be
Well, yeah, I mean, grabbing
my
Christopher
green would
Bell
be
last week at
big.
28 to 1 is a nice live ad.
Exactly.
If we kept track of my live ads, it might be a little disgusting.
Uh,
Um, but we had 2 plays on Grid Rival, and we cashed both of them. So we write them up in the newsletter every week, completely free to check out. Logano worse, Bubba over Hocevar, Ross better than 11.5. He gets 11th. That's called the being on just enough to cash. So I cashed that one. And then we had the Logano, the Bubba, the Ross, and I added Cindric. And Brian, I'm really thankful for you because I was going to add the Bowman to it too, and that would have been right for the 80%. Be like, let's just do the 4. And I said,
yep.
okay. And I did the 4 and I cashed it. So
And I think part of the reason why I did not want to fade Bowman too heavily was every time he comes here and he runs that best friends paint scheme with the puppers on there, I'm always soft-hearted for anything about animals, especially dogs as a rescue parent myself. So there was no way I could get too heavy on fading the 48.
yeah. So pretty good week. As you can see, all of our stuff's on here. So make sure you subscribe. Like I said, it's completely free. And keep it going. Anything else before we shift our focus and head to Vegas?
Other than the fact that I think now, although we claimed it last week, now we're finally to regular races. No option tire this week as we head to Sin City. We're just regular, same tire setup as we had last year here. I believe last fall. And yeah, I'm excited to get this string of races going here. Vegas, Homestead. I believe it's Darlington after that. Like we're gonna have a tremendous couple of weeks here upcoming.
Yeah, it's a good time to be a NASCAR fan. Let's see, I'm pulling it up. Yeah, Homestead, Martins. So Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville,
Martinsville.
Darlington, Bristol, Dega. It's a nice little stretch of races, and hopefully we get some fun action, and more importantly, find some winners. So let's talk winners. I'll refresh this just to make sure.
I
Okay.
mean, at this point, just write down Christopher Bell and check out.
Oh.
Yeah, it's gone, by the way. Yeah, I'm pissed. Don't worry. We can talk about this in a second, but yeah, you could just lead us in, please.
Yeah, let's just talk about it. So Brian and I were both gonna add William Byron, which FanDuel had at 10-1. And now that's gone. So it's 750. So we'll talk about it through that lens. Larson 5, Bell 550. Short is 325. FanDuel is still top of the market. If you have access to FanDuel, I highly recommend that being your first click on like Monday morning, Monday evening, Tuesday morning, and then kind of checking with them on race day, because they tend to have a
Yeah.
little bit of extra juice on a lot of their stuff, and then kind of go from there.
I will say further down the board this week, though, I think you can find value at other places, which is kind of odd
Yeah.
considering what we've seen from FanDuel to begin the year.
Is the Reddick 10 still good? I guess I could pull it up.
Yeah, it is. And as we're recording this, and since nobody is seeing this live, I can say this. I'm actively trying to get action on this as we speak before the damn number moves. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting action. The Denny 11 is kind of interesting too. I never bet Denny, but
can't.
can't. You won't?
When is the I know last week he was in position, but when you look at like Vegas or especially let's just talk about Vegas real quick last year.
Yeah.
When at any point last year at Las Vegas was Denny Hamlin somebody that you thought was going to win? He wasn't, right?
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Yeah, I just have a hard time jumping on him when you can get Tyler Reddick at similar pricing right now, who had he been a little more aggressive and maybe just said F it, moved Kyle Larson, he might win that race.
Well, yeah.
Because he was stronger than the 5 on the long run to end Vegas spring.
I'm messing around with our friends over at Win the Race to see true performance. I'm gonna add the Denny at 11. Maybe it's silly, but their fair market value. He's the only one that's him and Reddick are both values over on FanDuel. Yeah. I think I need to add Reddick too,
Oh my
because he's
god.
5. Like,
Why are you jinxing us?
fair, completely fair. I just when I see, I'm a prisoner of numbers and value. Even if it's somebody I think I can win, that can actually win. If I see markets basically the rest of the place half the price, how do I not bet that? If I can get a 10 and he's 5 or 6 everywhere else,
Yeah. I see that, but I also see for me, I look at it from the vantage point of recent history.
no.
When was in the past year plus, mainly just 2024, when was Denny better than or even close to Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson?
But the thing is, Brian, I think that's why we go. That's why we're a good combination, because I'm definitely a number play the number. Don't worry about the history. As like, I don't want to say don't worry about it at all, but like, if I see somebody that I believe can win, I'm getting a value on their number, and I'm gonna jump on it. Where you're like, what has he done for me lately? And what has he done for me at this track? And he really hasn't been a contender, so I get it. But
And then
I think those are the
something that
best
I
two
do.
values on the board of anything kind of around 10-1.
What's that?
I said I think those are the best two values on the
Oh,
board for anything around 10-1.
100%. So earlier when Byron was sitting out there at 10, I was about to smash that.
Yeah, that's simply wrong, and it's been fixed, and now it's 7.
Yeah,
Would you
and
bet it at
but
7.5, or do you wanna see practice before you get down that low?
oh yeah, no, I'd rather see practice because I think at that point, when you're talking about market entry on certain guys, he's kind of in that limbo area where he could either have a mediocre practice or say he has a good practice, but not quite as good as either Kyle Larson or Christopher Bell, and say one of Reddick and Hamlin are on par with him, he
Yeah,
probably gets a little bit longer. Or if he's one of the best guys in practice, puts it on pole again, he's probably going down to that 5 mark because Bell and Larson are not going to be floating too much regardless of what they do. So I
yeah.
think I'd rather wait for Byron to either get him when he's clearly shown that he's going to be really strong, or just stay off it at that 7.5 price because he doesn't look as good as what we had anticipated had we gotten it at that 10 number, So that's kind of the similar conversation I was having with like Denny is Denny is going to need to look like a friggin' rocket ship in practice. And he's going to have to deviate from his history here at Las Vegas where he qualifies like shit because track position here in Nevada is crucial. Like passing is difficult here too. Um,
Sure, but he started on the spring race last year, started 28th and was 5th in stage 1.
but that's the thing though, is like he's gonna be a similar price with that type of starting position. Unless he's the fastest guy in practice and then just biffs qualifying, which when is the last time we've seen that out of Denny? Where he looked like the best car in practice and then his qualifying session sucked. Like royally sucked. Not just mediocre, but just ass.
I couldn't tell you. I
Yeah,
just
that's
think
it. And so
I just think 11's a good value for a
yeah,
guy
I
that
don't
in all the spring races has been like basically a top 10, top 5 car. And in the last spring race, he was 5th after stage 1, 3rd after stage 2. The year before, 5th after stage 1, 8th after stage 2. The year before, 4th and 9th, 4th and 3rd. Maybe he ends up as a top 5 car, and maybe that's the bet, top 5, not the outright. But I see Denny, I see 11. If he wins, I'll just throw the double birds your way and we'll call it a day.
I mean, I don't disagree that Denny is one of the handful of guys that I could see winning this race, but based on recent form and recent Saturdays and just kind of the way Denny has almost taken on that Kevin Harvick Saturday mentality, even more so with Harvick retired, where
Yeah.
he does not care about either practice or qualifying. He just wants to show up for the race. I just can't see his number moving too much. And I'd rather get in at 8 or even 7 if he does look like the best car, you know?
And Reddick, to your thought there, I mean, the last 2 spring races, he started 34th and 18th. So even if he looks good in practice and he biffs his qualifying, like what's his number gonna be? 9?
No, see, that's the difference though. So Reddick opened this week at most places as the third favorite based on performances to begin this year and
Mhm.
what we saw out of him at 1.5s the majority of last season. And of the Toyota guys outside of Bell, based on the points that he's scored already this year, he's going to have a really good qualifying spot. I mean, he's probably going to be one of the last 10 guys to go out. They traditionally 2311 has brought speed here. I know he hasn't been great in qualifying, but he was one of the guys that was a legit threat to Kyle Larson last year at
Yeah.
one at Vegas. And so it's the reason why I like him more than Denny at the double digit mark.
I'm gonna play both of them just because I think the numbers are wrong. I mean, obviously, when you see that he's 5.5 or 6.5 in market, I will jump on that. He'll lose, and you can blame me. And then Denny, I think is a good value. I might just bet all of 2311 and log out. That might be the move.
Oh my gosh. Well, I definitely think that's a market to look at when those things start opening more
Mhm.
at more books
Mhm.
is team winner.
The problem is you can't you can't lump Denny into the 2311, even though he's the owner. He's still driving for JGR, so the books won't honor that.
Oh yeah, no, but I think like Bubba Wallace, for instance, although much less likely, he's somebody that has kind of popped at 1.5s in the past. Run up front, although Vegas
One
hasn't been kind
Kansas.
to him. Or he's fighting
Uh,
with Kyle Larson on the infield. So
yeah. So are you betting the Reddick then to
yeah,
10-1? Okay.
yeah. Reddick at 10, I think is interesting enough for me
Yeah,
to
I think
play.
it's wrong. But if that goes to like 7 or 8, you're probably out, just like Byron. At least until we see practice and qualifying.
Yeah, I'm pissed that damn number moved, but
Yeah. Yep. And we're obviously not betting Larson or Bell. You know, they look like rocket ships, and that's kind of 3.5, 4. I'll bet them then. That's fine. What about this next range? So Logano, Blaney, Chase, Kyle Busch. I mean, I guess we'll include Ross, Bowman, and Briscoe just because it's a wild leap from guys that are kind of like around or inside 10-1 to all the way to like, then we're like looking at 40s and stuff. It's pretty wild. So I guess from like, from like Logano, Blaney, Elliott, Bush, Chastain, Bowman, and Briscoe. Any interest in any of those options at their current best prices?
not particularly. Like, I love Ryan Blaney. I think he's awesome. I think he's going to be really good here. But same thing I just said about freaking Denny Hamlin. When's the last time Ryan Blaney was a legit race winning potential car in Las Vegas? You just haven't seen it. And even Logano, when he's won here, removed from 2022, the last 2 years, like the speed just hasn't been there. Last year, he only won the playoff race because he stayed out a ridiculous amount of time again past the leaders. Like, it save me with the Penske's been fast. Like, that doesn't mean shit as we go to a 1.5 where Hendrick and the JGR/Toyota 2311 guys have been the best.
Yeah, I mean, this is a place where we tend to fade Penske. Like we are happy to do it. When last time I was there, not lie, I guess it was 2 spring races ago. I bet them both to not top 10, and
Yep.
I cashed it. So, yeah, and given our with our friends over at Win the Race, their fair odds for Ryan Blaney to win is 18, almost 19-1. So, given where his current price is, he's definitely somebody you need to see in practice. Logano, same thing. Like, I mean,
So on Logano, I think the books have gotten privy to the fact that Joey, he's going to show up with a rocket ship and he's going to
yeah,
qualify fantastic. That's what they do.
yeah,
But then he's going to fall like a rock, and then he's going to be running out, 9th to 11th or 9th through 12th, and that's kind of where he's going to be stuck the remainder of the day. That's just what we've seen from the 22 car here at Las Vegas and other 1.5s for that matter since we've gone to this next gen car um, just the last 3 years. It's the reason why his numbers are much shorter than what we've seen in the past openings here. I mean, 18 and 20, which
yeah,
I think last year I went back and I watched a show when I referenced last year's opening odds, which when Caesars opened up, by the way, do not bet Caesars opening lines because those things suck. Like I bet Joey at either 18 or 20 to open with the idea that he was going to qualify well. And sure enough, that's what he does. And then you
yeah,
have that CLV built in, and then you can do what you should be doing and fade the shit out of him
yeah,
post practice and qualifying.
yeah. What about anybody else? Chastain, Bowman, Keselowski. I mean, Bubba at 40, Tyrone Gibbs, Chris Buescher, anything?
So I personally, I will say I have, while I'm trying to still get this damn Reddick line, I have Chastain at 25, and I have Gibbs at 50 for a tiny, tiny Hail Mary. This is probably the last time I play him if he looks like crap again. But um, Chastain, from what we've seen the last couple of years, is one of the best drivers here at Las Vegas and 1.5s. He won at Kansas last year. So
Yeah,
clearly they've got the speed to do this. His qualifying efforts have surprisingly been improving. at these types of tracks. So I do think this number is going to get shortened. I'm not interested in like anything sub 20. That's an absolute no go.
Yeah.
Even 20 is kind of pushing it.
Yeah.
So if
I
you get
think
that 24 at
I think
FanDuel
I need
still, I say fire.
22. I think I need 22 before I can get into betting Ross. I think once you get below that, you're flirting with fire.
Yeah, because I think this number, even if he qualifies well, I think he's probably more around that 12 to 14 range. So you got a decent amount of CLV there. Whereas if he qualifies as expected, he's probably still 20.
Yeah, and I will say, looking at his recent qualifying, like yeah, he did better in the fall last year, qualified 7th. But for the most part, in his spring qualifying, it's been 21st, 18th, 8th, and 20th his last 4. So even if he looks good in practice, maybe he doesn't qualify amazing, and maybe you can still get a 16 or an 18, knowing he's going to be really good. And if the best number I can get is 20, I'm going to wait. If I can get 24, 22, I may be a little more inclined to take a shot. Tyrone Gibbs is the one that
I can't get invested in him at anything sub 40. And even 40 is kind of,
yeah. But he
dude is going
has,
to be one of the first guys out in qualifying for what it's worth. And
yeah.
those guys never start well.
And as somebody who took a shot hoping for a better number come race day and basically got nothing, he was basically a tractor. I'm not. But his last 4 starts at Vegas, 4th, 11th, 8th, 8th. If he looks good in practice and qualifies inside the top 10, that number's gone. So I'm not betting 30. 40 is interesting. 50 obviously was a fire. But yeah, I don't know. It really feels like a week where you want to just bet the guys at the top of the board because that's who's going to win.
Well, and that's kind of what we've seen at the 1.5s is we just got off of races where books really didn't have a great handle on guys who were going to be strong. I mean, you talk about Daytona and Atlanta, both super speedway styles that present opportunity for the back markers to, maybe find track position and then race there at the end. Coda with SVG and Connor Zilic being up there kind of floated numbers for guys who were also very good at road courses. And then last week, the option tire threw a wrench into who we could expect to be good, who not, all that stuff. But as we head to Las Vegas with a lot of knowns, albeit not this year, just because we haven't ran a traditional track yet with just the same damn tire compound, or you can expect who's going to be good here based on next gen performances, which, by the way, I no longer look at any statistics beyond the introduction of the Gen 7 car. I just don't think they're relevant at all to what we're seeing anymore. So last 6 races, look at who's been really good here. Some guys just perform better than others. And I think that's how you're going to make your hay this week as we head to Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal point. Phenomenal point. Just looking at our
It
friends
kind of
offshore.
brings me to, so I was just going to say, so like Kyle Busch, he's very interesting this week because we've seen them kind of show up with more speed than we've kind of anticipated since last year when they kind of struggled. But do we really expect them to be fast enough to compete with the HMSs and the JGRs? Like, I don't really see it. So I don't really see, like, Busch. I can't get involved at 18, like 20. He's being priced the same as a guy in Ross Chastain that won Kansas last year that has been top 5 here for the last 6. Like, that makes zero sense.
The only place I'm betting Kyle Busch this weekend is on the truck race, which speaking
I
of
don't think
that,
he's running.
he was when I was looking it up, but maybe that was expectation on actually
Here, let me check. I got the page open for preliminary entry list.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's not running.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
then I guess I'm not betting them either.
yeah. Corey Day is running the 7 car for Spire this week.
Interesting. Okie doke. Well, I think that's everything from an outright perspective. Is there anyone else you want to throw out as a possible CLV target? Jump in, grab it, and then when we talk on Saturday night, it will seem like a value, even though they're not actually going to win.
Well, we talked about this last spring, and it performed pretty well just based on from a CLV perspective, and that's the 2 car. Cindric's still being priced outside the like 100 to 100.
Yeah.
He's going to qualify well. I think the same could be said for Josh Berry from Wood Brothers. Like clearly they've been performing better this year. I think they got plenty of speed, especially on Saturdays. And if they follow suit with what Logano does, I think they're going to perform well during the qualifying session and maybe even look okay in practice. So, I mean, if you're just trying to bank CLV to help yourself kind of hedge off of these numbers later in the week at post practice and qualifying, I don't mind hitting those guys. Now, do I expect them to even come close to competing for a win? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's look at Caesar to see if there's anything interesting. Any head-to-heads? Busher versus Keselowski. I don't know. Obviously, I prefer Busher, but I don't know that it's that crazy of a price
Yeah.
difference with the juice. Byron at plus money versus Reddick is interesting. I know you like Reddick. Obviously, the numbers like Reddick, but Willie Byron is just so damn rock solid, even in weeks where it doesn't have it. He's just like a top 5 car every week.
Well, I've been saying it all week leading up to this. If Oscar the Grouch hadn't thrown his trash bag onto William Byron's grill last spring, I think
Yeah,
the
don't
24 is
remind
probably.
me. I had it outright, and he was the winner, and he didn't win.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure William Byron would have wound up being the best car that day and won the race. So,
Do we
having the
take
Reddick,
Cindric over Josh Berry?
I'm not touching those guys, man. We're now at a race where I think it's fair to be able to predict that we're going to have tire failures and possible wrecks in the middle back of the field.
Logano plus money against average ass Chase Elliott.
Look, I stared at this exact matchup on Superbook when these things opened up at plus 130 or plus 140. I can't remember. And I was very close to firing on it, but I actually went the opposite direction and I played Ryan Blaney over Chase Elliott just based on the ability to get good finishes and just be solid. Logano has high variance at Las Vegas because when he sucks bad because he's wrecking. And then Chase Elliott, I just think he has that Kevin Harvick in him. I keep saying this. He's just going to be a solid car. He's going to have a solid day, but his ceiling is capped. So I think if you're playing Logano, you're expecting him to qualify really well again. So you're getting that CLV on that, and you would have to be able to find the opposite side of this, Elliott over Logano post practice at a different spot to be able to arb it.
Yeah,
that's the only way I'm playing that, in my opinion.
there's not a lot of markets open as we speak, but the Hamlin 4-1 to top Toyota is kind of interesting.
Okay, if Hamlin is top Toyota, where do you think he's running?
3 to 5.
All right,
Because I
and
think
you get that 4-1.
what's his top 3? Well, I guess
Yeah, his top 3 price is 3-1.
Yeah. Because you could easily see the Larson Byron thing 1-2, like we've seen a bunch, and then he's third.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd be if that's the case, I'd be shopping if I could find Denny over Bell because you're probably getting plus 140, plus 150 in that matchup.
Yeah, Denny over Bell and Denny over Reddick are interesting ways to play it too.
Yeah,
But
I would almost rather play that just because you open up the possibility of the other expectedly strong Toyotas to say win the race. And
yeah,
I don't know. It's a difficult market to get into for sure.
4-1's interesting though, and especially because I don't know that I love Ross, but I think he could definitely be contending. So if you tell me that the top three is some order of Ross, Byron, and Larson, um, and then the Denny's fourth with the top Toyota, I think that's completely fathomable.
Yeah.
And I'm getting 4-1 to do it. It's not like he's plus 350 or 3 or even 2-1. Yeah, I am a little surprised that that Bell is plus 130, Reddick's 2-1, and Hamlet's 4-1. I thought with these two numbers, maybe this will be longer. Maybe if I'm patient, I can get that, but I
I
don't
think
know.
it's based on the expectations of the other guys.
Right, but well, that's what I'm saying. If they think these two guys are that much of a difference, why is he not 5 or 6?
Well, it's because he only essentially has two other guys to beat.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the pricing of all the other Toyotas in the outright market, none of them are considered legit race winning contenders, whereas Bell, Reddick, and Hamlin are all within that first group of like so-called favorites, kind of eliminating the rest of the guys from even competing in that market. Whereas in like a Chevy, you have so many other possibilities of guys that could finish up front.
Is there any value in the poll?
This thing got friggin' nuked. The biggest mover that I saw, Carson Hocevar opened at 50-1. He's now 18-1.
That's crazy.
Now, I don't think people are realizing because of his wreck last week, and this is why I'm still waiting on the damn qualifying order sheet to get announced. I don't anticipate him qualifying as late as what we saw in last week heading
Yeah.
into Phoenix. So like to me, that's like a non-starter. I don't think Hocevar has any shot of
Yeah.
putting this thing on the pole this week. You got to look at
Cindric?
guys that are going to be qualifying later in Group B. So you have to look at guys that finished well. So like Chase Briscoe, for instance, with his wreck at Phoenix, like nope, no chance.
Busher?
Buscher's interesting. I mean, he doesn't RFK. You know how they.
Yeah, they don't qualify well, but at 30-1?
Yeah, no, I don't hate that.
Let's see. Yeah, Cindric kind of pops even as some just for starting position. Since 2022, he started third, second, 9th, 19th, third, and 11th. So, um, sort of interesting. Um,
But I think with Cindric though too, when he did qualify well, I know I just kind of waxed poetic earlier about his potential CLV on his outright market, which I still think is applicable. But
Yeah.
he was qualifying later here at Vegas based on his performances at the super speedways.
Yeah.
And so now that we have that 2 race buffer leading into this, and his points have started to slip and his finishing results have started to slip, he's not starting as close to the end of the second group as we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. Busher started 5th, 9th, and 22nd the last 3 years. So, I mean, if you want a lottery ticket, I don't think that's a bad shout, but he's probably going to be like a top 10 guy, not a pole setter. So I think this market's kind of toast, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. The Hocevar thing, it made sense just based on the speed we've seen at Spire, but I
Yeah.
just think with you can anticipate seeing Christopher Bell and William Byron probably going as the last two guys. And then you also have Reddick, who's probably going to be going inside the top 10. Kyle Larson, like those guys are going to be fast as shit. And then
Yeah.
not to mention Joey Logano, who came home 13th last week. He's been doing pretty well, just kind of keeping the wheels on it, as we say. So he's going to be qualifying later in Group B as well.
Yeah, like you could convince me Gregson or Herbst isn't sort of interesting, but under the guise of they're not going to be qualifying late, they're going to be very early. It's going to be hard
Yeah.
for them to do that.
Well, especially Herbst after he got caught in that wreck, like he's going to be starting, or his qualifying run is going to take place fairly early in Group
Yeah.
B.
Yeah, we'll still be getting breakfast at that point.
Yeah, same thing for Ty Gibbs. Like Ty
Yeah.
Gibbs may be going out as we're still finishing the media bullpen session in the media
Yeah.
center. Like based
Yeah.
on his finishes this year and him having issues last week in Phoenix, like
Mega tough
he may be
scene.
one of the first guys out.
Mega tough scene. All right, let's review the card as it sits, and then we'll go from there. So I have 2 bets. I have Denny Hamlin at 11 and Tyler Reddick at 10. The Reddick, I actually like the Hamlin bet more than the Reddick, but the fact that Reddick is like 6 or lower everywhere else and he's 10 at FanDuel, I'm gonna grab it and we'll see what happens on race day. Brian has 2 outrights as well. Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, 10 and 24. Anything else you're considering looking for, Brian? Shopping for, trying to find value? Like, I know it's early in the week and we don't want to get overexposed, and I think we're both doing a really good job of keeping ourselves in check early in a race that we like to be excited about.
Yeah.
Um, but is there anything else kind of like if you find a good number on this or someone like I'm gonna look for a Denny top 5 probably and see kind of what that looks like. Um, I guess I can look at BetMGM while you
I will
talk, but
say, so the guy that I'm looking at for like placement markets
Mhm.
right now, anticipating these numbers coming out is Ross Chastain.
Okay.
Because of where he's priced in the outright market, I think we're going to get some value in both his top 5 and his top 10 market. And then as more places start to unveil their matchups, you might see some value in matchups with involving Chastain against guys that are maybe priced a little bit shorter, who I
Yeah.
think actually perform worse on Sundays.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an interesting shout. Why is this not? Here we go. NASCAR. All right, let's see. Special. I don't think they
Yeah.
have anything.
Yeah. MGM hasn't opened up yet, which is a far cry from when they were the first book to open up on Sunday night after Atlanta for Coda.
That's crazy.
Wild. Disgusting.
365 maybe. Yeah, they
All
just have
we ask for,
outrights.
all we ask for is consistency.
Nah,
Caesars,
nobody has
Caesars,
time for that. Nobody has
Caesars
time
is the
for that.
best.
Yeah, they even when they squeeze us a little bit, they still are the cream of the crop, as they say. So, 2 outrights for each of us. As we mentioned, we will be in Vegas. So if you're out there, let us know. We're happy to say hello. We'll be in the media center. We'll be at the track. We'll be out here, there, and everywhere. Always looking for good bets. So if you find stuff as you're shopping, definitely leave us a comment. Hit us up on the Twitterverse, and we can chat about bets and see if there's something there. Anything else, Brian? Before we get out of here?
No, just that I'm ecstatic to be in Vegas again. I love this as my so-called home track.
Yep.
And like Kyle said, both of us are going to be there this week in a working capacity, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Very excited.
hopefully we're cashing tickets and we're getting to interview the guys that we actually bet.
Hey, Denny. Can we double bird it real quick and tell the haters what's up? Yeah, it'd be good to do. So that's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you Saturday night live from Vegas.